Hey guys, so today I'm filming a palette of the month video on my Anastasia Tamanna palette. If you guys have not seen any of these videos from me before, I'll have a playlist linked down below. So far I have done palette of the month videos on the Kat Von D Interstellar palette, the Urban Decay Naked 3, and the Balm in the Balm of Your Hand. My inspiration for this series is Amanda Alexander, or Fashion Footing on all of her social media. So last year on Amanda's Instagram, she had done a palette of the week. And then at the end of the year, she posted a video going over all of the palettes she used, letting you know her final thoughts on them. I'll have that video linked down below. Please make sure you go check her out. Amanda is such an amazing girl. She has a fantastic channel and she really deserves more love. One of the main reasons I'm doing this series is because I'm not a palette person. I much prefer using single shadows over palettes, but I do still have a ton of palettes in my collection that I am neglecting and I want to give some love to and hopefully rediscover and fall in love with. Also, when I do use my palettes, I tend to find one look I love and I wear it all the time, but I don't experiment and try to discover more looks. When obviously palettes have so many shadows, you can create so many looks. So I'm really doing myself a disservice by not exploring it. So that is another thing I'm challenging myself with in this series, is to create multiple looks using the same palette. So at the beginning of the month in my monthly makeup basket, I'll be showing you guys which palette I will be using for the month. And then at the end of the month, you will have this video where I will discuss the packaging. I will go over all the shades with swatches. I will show you which looks I created. I will go over the texture and the pigmentation and share with you my overall thoughts. So let's just jump right into the review. So like I said, this month's video is going to be on the Anastasia Tamanna palette. This was a limited edition palette, but I do believe most, if not all, of these shades are sold individually on the Anastasia website. Please make sure you check down below in the description box. I will let you know which shades are available and which are not. Unfortunately, all of Anastasia's palettes have been limited edition. So the Anastasia Tamanna palette comes with 10 eyeshadows and it did retail for $29. The Anastasia palette price has been going up, but that's because they're including more shadows. The Anastasia palettes are still some of the most affordable palettes out on the market with the most shades for your money. So highly recommend you guys pick up any of the Anastasia palettes if you like at least half the colors, because a single costs $12, $10 if you buy 4 of them, but a single costs $12, and if a palette costs $35, hello, you're definitely getting your money's worth when you buy a palette. So now to talk about the packaging, you do have a very thick, sturdy cardboard with a magnetic closure, which is actually my favorite packaging for palettes. I don't know why, but I find that it is sturdy, practical, easy to get into, and it's not bulky. The pattern on the palette is so beautiful. It is this gorgeous Indian Middle Eastern packaging here, and it says Anastasia Beverly Hills and Tamanna Dress Your Face, who is a makeup artist. On the inside, you do have some gorgeous damask patterns, and you do have a pretty nice size mirror, which is really nice for traveling, or if you are applying your makeup without a makeup mirror. This is pretty darn easy to use and it is pretty useful. Then you have your 10 eyeshadows, and it comes with a double-ended brush. So on one side you have a flat shader brush that is pretty thick and a little fluffy. On the other end you have a pretty thick pencil brush. I think this brush works pretty well. I don't use it too often, but this is really nice for traveling to just throw in your palette, because I feel like I am able to create a full look using this brush, but I do prefer using my multiple eyeshadow brushes, but this one does work pretty well and it is included as a little freebie with the palette. So now to go over the shades: Fresh, Blush, Venezia, Gilded, Custom, Sangria, Bengal, Chocolate, China Rose, Noir. And here are all of the swatches. You have Fresh, Blush, Venezia, Gilded, Custom, Sangria, Bengal, Chocolate, China Rose, Noir. So here are what all of the swatches look like. They are really opaque colors. I did have to apply a couple layers on most of them, but for the Noir shade, it is one swipe. I wanted to show you how pigmented and opaque it is in just one swipe. So I think this palette has the most perfect assortment of colors. You have a matte cream brow bone highlight. You have a satin finish, warm tan color that'd be great for a transition or crease shade. You have a matte chocolate brown and a matte black. And then you have several shimmery shadows for the lid. You have a champagne for an everyday lid color. You have a warm tone shade, a cool tone shade. Then you have 3 pops of color that I think are pretty wearable, either on the lid or as a pop of color on the lower lash line. I am so in love with this assortment of colors. Normally I would find an assortment of colors like this to be pretty random, but I actually think this palette is very all-inclusive. You do have warm tones, cool tones, natural everyday shades, and you have pops of color, matte, satins, shimmers. Really amazing shade selection here. I was able to create 6 different looks with this palette this month, which is pretty impressive for me to be able to come up with 6 looks using 10 shadows. Obviously you can come up with so many more, but for me that is pretty darn good with my little experimentation and getting creative and stuff. So now I'll show you the details of the looks I created. Here's today's look using the Anastasia Tamanna palette. As a base on my lid, I'm using the Maybelline Color Tattoo in Bad to the Bronze. On my lid, I'm wearing Anastasia Gilded. In my crease, I'm using Anastasia Bengal. As a transition color, I'm using the Milani Bella Eyes eyeshadow in Bella Cappuccino. On the outer corner of my lower lash line, I'm using the ColourPop Cream Gel Color in the shade Get Paid. On the inner portion of my lower lash line, I'm using the L'Oreal Hip Color Chrome Eyeliner in Gold Rush. This product is no longer available, but I would recommend the L'Oreal Silk Sesame Liner in the gold shade. Here are what the eyes look like up close. For blush, I'm using the MAC Mineralized Blush in Warm Soul. On my lips, I'm wearing the ColourPop Ultra Satin Lip in the shade Molly. This is today's look using the Anastasia Tamanna palette. On my lid, I'm wearing Anastasia Venezia. In my crease, I'm wearing Anastasia Bengal. As a transition color, I'm using the Milani Bella Eyes eyeshadow in Bella Cappuccino. And these are what the eyes look like close up. So the Venezia shade really is just like a light wash of color. If you want it to be even more intense, I would recommend applying it over top of a base. The base that I would recommend is the Maybelline Color Tattoo in the shade Edgy Emerald. For blush, I'm using Max Melba. On my lips, I'm wearing a combination. First, I lined my lips with ColourPop's Lippy Pencil in Polite Society from the Jamie King collection. And I filled in my lips with Hype Girl, which is a matte finish that was released in the Spring 2016 collection. Here is today's look using the Anastasia Tamanna palette. As a base on my lid, I'm using the L'Oreal Infallible Eyeshadow Crayon in the shade Enduring Rose. For my transition color, I'm using the Milani Bella Eyes eyeshadow in Bella Cappuccino. On my lid, I'm wearing the shade China Rose. In my crease, I'm wearing the shade Bengal. In my outer corner, I'm using the shade Chocolate. And as a brow bone highlight, I'm using the shade Fresh. Here are what the eyes look like up close. For blush, I'm using the Balm's Hot Mama because it is super similar to China Rose. For my lips, I lined them with the ColourPop Lippy Pencil in the shade Aquarius. I filled my lips in with the Dose of Colors liquid lipstick in the shade Truffle. So this is today's look using the Anastasia Tamanna palette. As a base on my lid, I'm using the Maybelline Color Tattoo in the shade Barely Beige. I'm wearing this champagne shade blush on my lid. Bengal in my crease, and Fresh as a brow bone highlight. As a transition color, I'm using the Milani Bella Eyes eyeshadow in Bella Cappuccino. Here what the eyes look like up close. For blush, I'm using the Clinique Cheek Pop in Peach Pop. On my lips, I'm wearing the Urban Decay Revolution lipstick in Streak. Here is today's look using the Anastasia Tamanna palette. As a base on my lid, I'm using the Maybelline Color Tattoo in the shade Black Orchid. On my lid, I'm using Anastasia Custom from the Tamanna palette. In my crease, I'm using Anastasia's Dusty Rose. For my transition color, I'm using Makeup Geek Petal Pusher. For my brow bone highlight, I'm using Fresh from the Anastasia Tamanna palette. Here what the eyes look like up close. For blush, I'm using the Clinique Cheek Pop in Heather Pop. For my lips, I lined them with the ColourPop Lippy Pencil in the shade Bound. And I filled them in with the ColourPop Ultra Satin Lip in the shade Dopey. Here's today's look using the Anastasia Tamanna palette. As a base on my lid, I'm using the Maybelline Color Tattoo in Pomegranate Punk. For my transition shade, I'm using the Milani Bella Eyes eyeshadow in Bella Cappuccino. On my lid, I'm using Anastasia Sangria. In my crease, I'm using Anastasia Bengal. In my outer corner, I'm using Anastasia Chocolate. And as a brow bone highlight, I'm using Anastasia Fresh. And here are what the eyes look like up close. For blush, I'm using MAC Cantaloupe. On my lips, I'm wearing a combination. For the lipstick, I'm wearing the Tarte Matte Lip Surgence in the shade Exposed. For gloss, I'm using the Buxom Full On Lip Polish in Sandy. Now to talk about the formula, the texture, and the pigmentation. So Anastasia has 8 different finishes for her shadows. I'm not sure what finishes these shades are, so I will look them up, and make sure you check the description box, because along with telling you which shades are available individually and which are exclusive to this palette, I will give you the shade descriptions if they are available, and I will let you know the finish. So like I said, Anastasia has 8 different finishes of her shadows. She has titanium, duochrome, ultra matte, metallic, satin, shimmer, sparkle, and velvet. And I'm going to read you the description of all of the finishes, which I'll have listed down below as well. Titanium is a highly pigmented metallic shadow with a smooth texture and intense multi-dimensional shimmer. Apply wet for a pure liquid metal finish. Duochrome is a high-intensity formula with color-shifting prismatic iridescence. Ultra Matte is a blendable suede-like formula that provides a smooth, opaque matte finish. Metallic is a rich, velvety formula that provides a high shine finish. Satin is a luminous formula that provides decadent color with a silk-like finish. Shimmer is a light reflective, finely milled formula that provides a lustrous finish. Sparkle is a smooth formula with light reflecting particles that provides a dazzling finish. Velvet is a weightless formula with a buttery texture and a soft sheen. So those are all the different finishes for the Anastasia shadows, and like I said, I will let you know in the description box which shades are what finish. So in addition to having gorgeous colors, I love that they do have different finishes in this palette, but that majority of the finishes are some sort of shimmer. A lot of these shimmery shades are perfect for the lid. For me, when it comes to palettes, I would rather have more lid shades than I would crease, transition, highlight, outer corner shades, because I don't mind using the same crease color brow bone highlight over and over again, because I feel like really the star of the show for me is the lid color. So that's really what I did when creating these looks. I used the same brow bone highlight, the same crease color with all of these, but I rocked several different lid shades, which I think makes this palette so much more versatile, and it's really why I loved it and was able to create so many looks using it. So for the texture and the pigmentation, all these shades were really smooth to the touch. They did apply super easily. I did find for some that I needed to apply a couple layers. For example, Venezia, you will see in the look that I created that it was more of a sheer wash of color, and if I would have applied it over a colored base, it would have been way more intense. So with all the rest of my looks, I did apply my lid shade over a cream base. I wish I didn't have to do that, but I'm okay with it because I have so many cream shadows in my collection that I need to use anyway, so I do not mind using a cream shadow with these powder shadows to get an amazing look and be able to use both products. But I did want to mention that I don't think that a lot of these shadows can stand alone over a primer unless you want that sheer wash of color. But if you really want to pack a punch with intense pigmentation, I would recommend applying these over a cream base. But I do find that these shadows, while I did need to layer them a little bit, once they were over a cream base, I did not have to layer them, but they really did apply really smoothly and blend out easy. I did not have any patchiness or skips or chalkiness or anything. I really am impressed with the formula of these shadows. So for my favorite shades in this palette, honestly, I would say all of them except for blush, because I don't really like champagne shadows on me because they're too similar to my skin tone to really stand out and make a statement. Also chocolate and noir, because I hardly ever use a dark chocolate brown or a black, so I just didn't get a lot of use out of those shades. They are a fantastic formula. I'm happy to have them, but they aren't my most favorite standouts. But I love Fresh as a brow bone highlight. I think it's gorgeous. Bengal is an amazing crease color. If I didn't have this palette, I would definitely buy it in a single. And I love all these different lid colors. I think they're so beautiful. So for my final thoughts on this palette, this is definitely a favorite of mine. I love this palette so much. The packaging is beautiful and very practical. I love the magnetic closure, the hard cardboard, and the fact that it isn't bulky. I am so happy with the variety of colors and finishes in this palette. Like I said, I do love having more lid shades, and I love that there are neutrals and brights and warm tones and cool tones and mattes and shimmers. Such an amazing palette, the perfect variety of shades and finish. Like, can you see how excited I am about this palette? I really do like the formula of Anastasia shadows, and I do have a couple singles. I want to buy some more singles. I'm very impressed with them. So this palette is a must-have for me. I am so sorry it is no longer available, but I know the palette that is currently available is the Anastasia Modern Renaissance palette. I do not think I'll be purchasing that because it has a lot of browns and pinks. If there were more reds, I would buy it, but I'm not really a pink shadow person. It's still absolutely gorgeous and an amazing value. Anastasia palettes are such a great value, and like I said, they are all limited edition, so if you are wanting to try one, go ahead and pick it up. Highly recommend Anastasia palettes and her shadows. So please check the description box for more information. I would love to know your thoughts on Anastasia palettes and shadows. Let me know what are your must-have shadows from Anastasia. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye guys.